What does it mean to have a well-exposed photograph? Exposure, and why this is so important. This is a gray card. It's how you find 18% gray, middle gray, or your correct exposure. Also, fun. Okay, anyway. So, how does it all help me get more creative with my pictures and understand my exposure? Well, I'm gonna tell you in just a minute. Is anyone else hearing how creaky my floor is? Anyway, let's talk about metering. Right here at the bottom of your screen, you will see an exposure, I don't know what it's called, an exposure graph thingy that shows up in your camera. The meter exposure, that's how you know when your camera is exposed correctly. First of all, let's go back to a guy named Ansel Adams. He was this brilliant landscape photographer, and he came up with what is known as the zone system. You've got different zones of exposure from middle gray out on either end to pure black and pure white. When you're looking at a scene and you tap on your shutter and the little light shows you kind of where your scene is, your camera is looking for middle gray or your gray card, right? It's looking for this tonality in your scene. Now, what if you're shooting a scene that is just a snowy tree in a snowy landscape, and then you're exposing for this middle gray? Your whole scene is gonna look muddy because it's not making the scene white, it's making the scene middle gray. Does that make sense? So your camera is always looking for middle gray. So there's a couple ways around this. You can either try to find middle gray in your scene every time and show your camera that, and then bring the exposure to the middle so you know that you're getting middle gray for that item. That's one option. Now, another option is you can look at your scene and determine, I don't know what middle gray is in this scene. So then you find something that is white or black. Hey guys, sorry, just wanted to interrupt here for a second to say that I completely forgot to mention the main point of this video. So I had wanted to let you guys know that carrying a gray card in your pack is a great way around the issue of not knowing what middle gray is in your scene. You can just show this to your camera and take a meter reading of this, keeping it right in the center so you know that you're getting middle gray. It just folds up real small like this. Costs, I think, between $7 and $12 on Amazon. But carry on with the rest of the video because it's really good information in terms of taking control of your pictures and understanding the zone system better and how metering works. But yeah, that was kind of the whole point. Keep watching. Your scene and determine, I don't know what middle gray is in this scene. So then you find something that is white or black or somewhere else along the zone system line, and you adjust your exposure accordingly. Let's say you have a white object in your scene, it's like snow. On the zone system, we can look and see that snow is gonna be the second to highest zone. Snow is zone 9 and middle gray is zone 5. So that means there's a 4-stop difference between middle gray and snow. So we're photographing our scene, we're setting everything up, we get an exposure reading where our little line is right in the middle, so that means we're at zone 5. I don't know why I did that for that. We're at zone 5. If we want it to be zone 9, we now have to overexpose the image by 4 stops. So you want to bring that click, 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 click up 4 stops, overexpose on the plus side. Now you know that your image is gonna be Snow White. Not the actual person Snow White, but the kind of white that snow would be. But that would be pretty cool if Snow White just showed, I don't know. Anyway, photography is just all about reading light. That's all you're doing. So you're using this tool, this camera, to help you to do that. You have to work in unison with the camera. So you have to tell it what it's seeing in the scene. It doesn't know that it's seeing a black dog. It just knows how to read the light according to what you tell it. So if you're taking a picture of your black dog and you're lining that exposure up right in the middle, it's gonna make that black dog middle gray. Does that make sense? We don't want our black dog to be middle gray, so you'd find something along the zone line that would make the black dog a textured black. So all this talk about finding the correct exposure, how do we even do that? How do we even start to tell the camera what it is in the scene we're looking at? Good question. I don't know enough about cameras to say definitively that every camera comes with this, but majority of cameras that I have worked with come with 3 different metering options. Matrix metering, center weighted metering, and spot metering. I would just say to every other kind of metering except spot metering. Personally, that's all I use. You can choose a tiny little fraction of your scene and tell the camera, I want this to be what you give me a meter reading of. Looking at this scene in particular, you might put the spot meter on my face and say, okay, that's probably like 1 stop lighter than middle gray. So with the spot meter on my face, you would overexpose 1, or you can look behind me, choose part of the darker side of the scene, and maybe underexpose a few stops for that, and then come back to refocus on me once you've set your exposure. I don't want to leave you hanging, so matrix metering means that the camera is going to take a general mathematical average of everything in the scene and give you that exposure. This is usually good, I'm told, for landscape photography, which I don't. Center weighted metering, and this is going to take the central portion of the scene and it's going to give you an average out of that. I only use spot metering, so that way I can choose a white in the scene, I can choose a black in the scene, I can choose my middle gray in the scene, and I have control over those aspects. Shutter speed, aperture, ISO, these are the 3 tools you're gonna use to adjust your exposure, and the fun part of that is that depending on what you're going for, you would change a different one. You can just mix and match and do all this crazy stuff in order to get the images that you're going for. Hopefully that was a little helpful, I don't know. It may have confused you more than helped you. I'll see you guys around. All right, take 2. Nope. Wow, that's a lot of information. Also, ow.